Hey, it's Jay, and today we're going to talk about how to navigate Autodesk Inventor 2021.
Okay, so when you first open up Autodesk Inventor, you're going to start outside of File in this menu pretty much. And basically there are two whole things you're going to need to be worried about. You don't need most of this. And that is this New tab and these Recent Documents. And both of them are pretty much exactly what you think. So this New allows you to start a new file, and you've got lots of different file types. We don't really need to worry about most of those, but all you're going to need to worry about is standard parts, standard assemblies, and drawings. So you can just click what you want, and yeah, and make sure you click the right one because they have different file types. Like the parts are .ipt, these are .iam, and this is .dwg. So yeah, just make sure you click the right one, and then you can click it, and it'll open up a new part. It'll take a second, but that's basically how that works. And then recent documents also works exactly how you think it does. It allows you to open recently opened documents. And you can just kind of like scroll down. You can see what we've got here. I have a lot of stuff, but we don't worry about that. So yeah, that's how that works. And yeah, the other thing we have, so next up we have the file menu. It's pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, but the one thing here that's going to be a bit weird that you're going to need, okay, we can't do it unless, no. So we're going to open up this. You need to be in a file to worry about this weird thing. So if you go to save as, cancel, no. Yeah, the only thing that's a bit weird here is pack and go. You have to click on this arrow and you have this. So basically it's kind of weird because Inventor pulls, when you have an assembly, it pulls all of the parts from files where it think it is, where they are, because that's where they are on your computer. So then if you just send the assembly file to someone, it will freak out because it doesn't have all of its dependencies available on its computer. So basically what Pack and Go allows you to do is it locks everything into a single thing, and then you can just open it up. And speaking of that, make sure you don't move your files around unless you're like very careful about it and you're adjusting as you do it, because then the same thing happens because the files aren't where the assembly expects them to be, and it kind of freaks out and you have to show them where it is, and that's just generally a pain. Okay, now that we're done with some stuff dealing with starting a file and saving, it's a lot to go over for when you're in a file. You can see we've got a lot of menus here, but it's all pretty important, so bear with me. So we're going to go with the order of the easiest to hardest, at least in my opinion. So at the very top here, you can see we have a bunch of things. Pretty much don't worry about that. They're almost all shortcuts. So just leave them be. They can hang out. Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. And then the second easiest is this stuff at the bottom. Is you don't really have to worry about. It just allows you to navigate between multiple open files and get back to the home menu. It's kind of like browser tabs, so really just don't worry about it. Like if I had another file open, it would also be down here. I could just flip back and forth between them. And yeah, pretty much how that works. You can also get back home by clicking on the home. Okay, the view cube is this thing up here. Seems a little bit weird. It's pretty intuitive. Give me a second. So basically, if you click and drag it, it'll orbit the view like this. And my computer's struggling a little bit, but this is fine. Yeah. And if you have something specific selected, it'll orbit around that. You can see the pivot is in the center of that. But if you don't have anything selected, it'll just orbit around the origin. And then if you click on any face, edge, or vertice on the view cube, it'll align you with that, and as you can see. And if you're on a face, you have extra options, which are these two arrows, which allow you to rotate the whole thing. And if you click on this home, which only really appears when you aren't dragging, it'll align you between the top, front, and right with the vertice between those two. So that's pretty much how that works. Okay, next is this menu on the right. I don't use most of this stuff personally, but you might. I do use the pan tool a lot, and it just looks like a hand. So basically what it allows you to do is you can just move around. It's pretty nice. Feel free to start clicking around and playing around with this to figure out what you like. It won't screw anything up, so just do it. However, do not click this X right here. That closes this and it's a pain to get back, and just don't worry about it. And also in the same vein, you can click this one. You can have more options with this if you go ahead and click that drop down arrow right here. So yeah, and to get out of the tool, like you can see, I can't do anything about this. Like even if maybe I can. Apparently you can click anywhere, or you can click escape, or you can just click on the tool again. Okay. So now we're done with this. Now it starts to get a little bit wacky. Next bit is this stuff on the left here. So it's basically just a file browser is a good way to think about it. You can have folders, you can put stuff into folders, like you can just create a new folder, and I won't do this because I don't need a folder, but you can go ahead and do that. And you just click plus to expand it, and you click minus to contract it, or constraint, to collapse it. And it just when you expand, you can expand a lot of things, including some things you really don't think about. It breaks down whatever you can click on into baser components. So if you just go far enough down, like I have my folder, then I have my part here, and then this is as far down as you're going to get. You're going to have origin and some constraints. So basically the origin folder I don't find super useful for specific parts, but this one is, and we'll go over that in a second. Actually, no, we're going to go over it now. Basically what this allows you to do is constrain stuff to specific axes of an entire project. So like I can just go, yeah, I'm going to constrain this to the XZ plane, and you don't have to know which ones are which. It's just kind of a thing. But yeah, basically it boils down to this origin and the constraints that even though you can't really deal with them, and you can just open up whatever it is, and you can just keep going farther down. Basically, this opening up assemblies shows you all the parts in them, so you can open that up and then edit the part directly without having to go through a whole bunch of weird file opening, which is very, very nice. And yeah, basically file browser. You can, and if you right click on anything, you get a lot of options with it. These are some things you're going to want. This, if you go visibility, allows you to make it, let's show with something much more easy to see. Visibility makes it, okay, fine. Basically, but what visibility will do is it will hide something, or show something if it's already hidden. You can ground stuff, which basically just doesn't allow it to be moved, and anything constrained to it can't move either. And when you do that, it has this little thumbtack, which you can see up here. But don't really worry about that. Just make sure there's one grounded part in your assembly, so it doesn't just move entirely around. Yeah, there's also suppress. Try not to do that. Basically, not really 100% clear on what it does. I wouldn't deal with it. It kind of screws stuff up and it's a pain to fix. If you want to go for it, go for it. But it does some weird things to level of detail, which I don't really understand. Then you have to do some weird things to fix it, and it's kind of just a pain. Okay, so then now for the last bit, we're going to go most complicated bit, which is all this stuff at the top of the screen. Basically, how I've broken this down is we have tabs, which are all of these. And you can see we have the Assemble tab, Design tab, 3D Model, Sketch, Annotate, Inspect, Tools, and then a whole bunch of things, Manage, View, Environments, Get Started, to Collaborate, and Electromechanical. So basically the three main tabs you're going to be using, you're going to be Assemble a lot of the time. You won't use a whole lot of Design. Sometimes you will. It's useful for like these, which are weird and a whole nother deal. You're going to be using 3D Model sometimes, for like dealing with actual 3D modeling, not assembling stuff. And you're going to be using Sketch, which allows you to create parts. There are a couple of things we're going to use in tools, and a couple of things we use very rarely in environments. But for the most part, Assemble, Sketch, and 3D Model are the three main ones you're going to use. Then, as you can see, within every tab, we have a whole bunch of subdivisions. As you can see, they're labeled by the bottom. So like under the Assemble tab, we have component, position, relationships, a whole bunch of things. Basically, this just divides the tools even further. They're usually pretty intuitively named, so just go ahead with that. And then we have drop downs. You can see a lot of things will have an arrow next to them. It just allows more tools to be under one subdivision. It's pretty, straightforward there. And sometimes even like tools will have drop downs because it just changes some specific things, and it's kind of weird. And then after that, we have tools themselves, which allow you to actually do things in Inventor. We go over most of these in later videos, and there's pretty good online documentation for anything we actually don't end up covering, so don't worry about them too much just yet. And one thing you should know is you can learn more about most tools and stuff in Inventor just by hovering your cursor over it until it all appears, and it teaches you, and you can read a little bit about what it does. And it's pretty nice. All right, that's it for this one. See you guys next time.